Miguel Santos, a 12-year-old boy from Cebu City, lived with his sick mother Maria in a small wooden hut near the busy market. Every morning, the sound of jeepneys filled the air as he prepared for another hard day. One morning, only a small piece of bread remained. Miguel gave it to his mother, smiling as he lied that he had already eaten. His mother looked at him with love and guilt, whispering a prayer for her son's strength. Later that day, heavy rain poured, but Miguel still ran barefoot through the streets, delivering groceries for Mr. Dela Cruz, the rich shop owner. His clothes were soaked, but he didn't care. He only wanted to earn enough for his mother's medicine. When he reached the pharmacy, he realized he didn't have enough money for both rice and medicine. With tears in his eyes, he chose the medicine and went home hungry. One day, Mr. Dela Cruz saw Miguel secretly giving free bread to a stray dog. Instead of scolding him, he was touched by the boy's kindness. That night, Maria's condition worsened. Holding Miguel's hand, she whispered, "Be kind, my son. God sees your heart," before closing her eyes forever. Miguel cried quietly beside her. Years passed, and the once poor boy became a man with a kind soul. In Cebu City, he opened a small food stall called Maria's Kitchen, where he gave free meals to the hungry, keeping his mother's memory alive through his kindness. The next morning, the sun rose over Cebu City as Miguel walked through the crowded streets carrying a basket of bread. He worked at Mr. Dela Cruz's small bakery, earning just enough to buy food for his sick mother. Every day, he watched rich children buying pastries while he stood outside, his stomach empty but his heart strong. One afternoon, Miguel noticed an old woman sitting by the street, hungry and shivering. Without thinking twice, he took a piece of bread from his basket and gave it to her. She smiled weakly and blessed him. Mr. Dela Cruz saw this from his shop window. Instead of anger, a strange warmth filled his heart. Later, he called Miguel inside and asked softly, "Why did you give that bread away?" Miguel lowered his head and said, "Because she was hungrier than me, sir." The man was silent, realizing how pure the boy's heart was. That evening, Miguel returned home with extra bread, a gift from his boss. His mother smiled weakly as they shared the meal. She told him how proud she was and reminded him that kindness was more precious than gold. The candlelight flickered as they talked, their small home filled with warmth despite the hunger. Miguel looked at his mother's tired face and promised to make her proud someday. As the night deepened, Maria coughed softly, holding her son's hand tightly, while Miguel prayed silently for her to get better, unaware of what fate was preparing for them. Days passed, and Maria's health continued to decline. Miguel spent every moment trying to earn enough money to buy her medicine. One afternoon, as the sun began to set behind the crowded rooftops of Cebu City, he hurried to the pharmacy with a few coins clutched tightly in his hand. The pharmacist counted the coins and said gently, "It's not enough for both rice and medicine, son." Miguel stared at the counter, his heart pounding. His stomach ached from hunger, but he thought of his mother's pale face waiting at home. After a moment of silence, he whispered, "Then give me the medicine." He walked out slowly, holding the small packet close to his chest. On his way home, he passed a food stall where the smell of grilled fish filled the air. His stomach growled, but he kept walking, telling himself that his mother's life was more important than his hunger. When he reached home, Maria looked at him with weak eyes and asked, "Did you eat, Anak?" Miguel smiled and nodded, lying once again so she wouldn't worry. He handed her the medicine and sat beside her, wiping sweat from her forehead. That night, he cooked plain rice water for himself and ate quietly in the dark. The sound of rain tapping on the tin roof filled the silence. As he looked at his mother sleeping peacefully, he felt a strange strength inside him, the kind only love and sacrifice can give. The next morning, Miguel arrived early at Mr. Dela Cruz's bakery. The air was filled with the smell of freshly baked bread, and customers lined up at the counter. Miguel worked silently, sweeping the floor and packing loaves. Outside, a stray dog stood near the door, thin and trembling from hunger. Miguel noticed it staring at the bread with pleading eyes. Without hesitation, he took a small piece of bread and placed it near the dog. The animal wagged its tail weakly and ate quickly. What Miguel didn't realize was that Mr. de la Cruz had been watching from inside. The man stepped out quietly, his arms crossed, and said sternly, "Why did you give away what isn't yours?" Miguel froze, frightened, and lowered his head. "I'm sorry, sir," he said softly. The dog looked hungry. I couldn't ignore it. For a moment, there was silence. Then, to Miguel's surprise, Mr. de la Cruz smiled slightly and said, "You have a good heart, boy. From now on, the dog can stay here, and you'll take care of him." Miguel's eyes widened in disbelief. Later that day, Mr. de la Cruz handed him a warm loaf of bread and said, "For you and your mother." As Miguel walked home with the bread, tears filled his eyes. For the first time, he felt that kindness truly comes back in ways we don't expect. The small act of compassion he showed began to change the hearts of others around him. That night, the wind blew softly through the broken window as Miguel sat beside his mother's bed. The small candle flickered, casting gentle shadows on the wall. Maria's breathing was weak and uneven, and her hands trembled as she tried to hold his. Miguel gently wiped her forehead with a damp cloth, whispering, "You'll be fine soon, Mama. I promise I'll buy all your medicines." She smiled faintly, her eyes filled with both love and sorrow. "My son," she said softly, "you have already given me everything, your heart." Miguel tried to hold back his tears, but they rolled down his cheeks. "Don't talk like that, Mama. Please rest. I'll take care of you." Maria reached out, touching his face gently. "Listen to me, Anik," she whispered, her voice trembling, "be kind. No matter how hard life becomes, never lose your heart. God sees your kindness." Her voice faded as her hand slipped from his. Miguel called her name, shaking her gently, but she didn't move. The candle's flame flickered weakly, then went out, leaving the room in silence. Miguel sat there, clutching her hand, unable to speak, unable to breathe. Tears fell endlessly as the rain began outside, echoing his heartbreak. The world felt empty, but her last words stayed alive in his heart, a promise, a light that would guide him through the darkness of life. That night, a poor boy became a man shaped by love and loss. Years passed, and Cebu City changed, but Miguel's heart never forgot his mother's words. He worked tirelessly, saving every coin, and learned to bake from Mr. de la Cruz, who became like a father to him. With time, Miguel opened a small food stall at the corner of a busy street. The sign above it read, "Maria's Kitchen," painted carefully by hand. The smell of warm bread and rice porridge filled the air every morning, drawing people from all walks of life, workers, students, and even beggars. Miguel served everyone with the same gentle smile. When someone came without money, he quietly placed food on their plate and said, "Eat first. Pay when you can." On the wall behind the counter hung an old framed photo of his mother, smiling in her simple dress. Every night, after closing, Miguel would sit beneath that photo and whisper, "We did it, Mama." Sometimes, he saw poor children standing by the stall, watching others eat, and he always invited them in. The community began calling him, Kuya Miguel, the kind man who never let anyone go hungry. The same streets that once saw his tears now echoed with laughter and life. His small act of kindness had grown into a light for others. As the sun set over Cebu, Miguel looked up at the sky and smiled, knowing his mother's spirit lived on in every meal he served, in every heart he touched.